future-proofing the construction industry through drones. And I've heard our next speaker present at one of our other events, and fascinating what is happening in the world of drones. So let's get straight into it. We have the founder and CEO of Hover UAV, Jackie Dujmovic, and she's an internationally recognized drone consultancy and system management company, Hover UAV. And her team has been involved in many groundbreaking drone programs, including conducting flight operations for the Google Wing Drone Delivery Program and implemented many first BVLOS flight approvals. Also, the first New South Wales shark surveillance flights. And it's fascinating what is happening in the world of drones and construction. So let's dive straight into it. Jackie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
And we can hear you as well. Nice to see you again. I will hand it over to you. Tell us about what's happening in the world of drones.
I will do, and thanks for the introduction. And you even got my name right, which is probably a first in these webinars, so well done on that.
Cheers.
Look, everyone, let me share the screen and get started, because I think I've only got a quite short session with lots to sort of say, and I want to allow enough time for questions as well. And I assume please put any Q&A throughout the session, and I can answer them. And if we don't get a chance, I can definitely come back and answer them later for you all as well. Now, let's hope my screen shares as well. It'll be amazing if it's all technically. Can you give me?
It's perfect.
It's
yep,
perfect.
It's all good.
Okay. So what I'm going to talk about today is drones in construction, but also looking at how to run a successful drone program. I think it doesn't matter if you work in agriculture, if you're doing shark surveillance or everything, they're very similar in some of the methodology and what you need to run a successful program. So today we're going to look at how you implement that, and just to give you some of the ideas of the next steps you're going to need. So first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and the company. So I started Hover about 6 years ago. And first of all, we started doing a lot of services. Actually, construction was one of them, definitely doing sort of building progress, 3D models, inspections, and definitely more services to start. There's probably about a year in that we realized that there were so many amazing entrepreneurs and inventors out there, but they didn't know how to make their drone program successful or make it an everyday tool. So we went around trying to then help them create that by doing the regulatory process, helping them run compliant and efficient drone operations. So I'm going to show you a really quick video. I thought you've been in sessions all day, so show you a little bit of video. It does have some that are non-construction, but here's some of the footage of some of the programs I've been involved with, which will make more sense throughout the presentation on why we're showing it. Maybe it's cutting out. Been working absolutely perfectly. I'll try again. Okay, it obviously doesn't like that part. Oh, there we are. So that was just a quick snippet of some of the programs that we've been involved with as well over the last few years. So drones in construction is definitely not going away. It is actually the fastest growing commercial application, even over mining and agriculture as well. They're expecting that there's going to be 33,000 drones in construction by 2040, and the cost savings by utilizing drone technology is going to be 1.34 billion. So it's definitely not going away, and it's definitely something that I really encourage anyone in that construction or any field at the moment to really look at, I guess, how that their drone operation, are they allowing that drones to be a part of what they do, and building that foundation that's going to be needed by that 2040 to make successful drone programs. So in the constructions, I guess these are, what are they currently being used for? These are what we've sort of seen that is the main use cases. So obviously, many of you have probably heard that it's being used for site surveys, 3D models, stockpile management. Those initials, they're probably the most popular use cases on construction sites at the moment. It's also being used for inspection. So as the frame is going up, it can be close inspections, that you can have great data analysis throughout the process of that as well. Another one is monitoring productivity and accountability. So you can compare where it's meant to be. You can get that data every day, and you can do that comparable data analysis. One of the ones that I have actually done probably the most of in the construction area is actually for security and work health and safety. So a lot of the sites that we've been working on, you can run the drones there to look for trip hazards. You can put the AI on it. One of the ones we just helped a client with was utilizing AI when they were flying over the site. They would look at where the trucks and everything were, but they would also at the same time, the AI would detect if anyone didn't have a hard hat on and things like that, and it would send alerts back. So it's being used definitely for their work health and safety as well. And one we all know about, that obviously those pretty photos at the end, or if you're doing high rises or anything like that, it's great that you can go and show people what the view is going to be like very easily prior to it actually being built. Those are just some of the areas. And when we talk about growing a successful drone organization, we want to develop that, like those systems and processes that not only you can do what is already being proven that works very successful in the construction, but it opens it up. I mean, you can be delivering tools around the sites, or up higher and things like that. You can be monitoring gas, water, and noise from the surrounding areas if you require that for government approvals. You can be utilizing it to seed the area. There's so many different use cases. Really, like, it's just so open to your imagination of what you can utilize drones for. But having that foundation and set up correctly then allows any of those operations to be successful. So we're going to look at, as I've mentioned, drone as a tool. Drone is just an object for you to collect the data, to have a package deliver. It's not the whole project. It really is something like you have a hammer, or you have different items, generators, or whatever you have in your toolbox. A drone is just a tool for you to do that job. So we're going to look at some of the industry trends that I'm seeing from around Australia at the moment, which helps that drone as a tool be more successful, and allows, I guess, all of those case studies that we talked about earlier to really start to see the cost benefit. So some of the industry trends that we're sort of seeing at the moment, a lot of your flight operations on construction site is visual line of sight. So it's when you can visually see that drone and you just fly up and you go up and you do that inspection. You usually have one pilot flying that. But sometimes there's not a huge amount of cost benefit, because construction sites can be really large, or you'd like to have multiple drones or make it autonomous and remove that person altogether and things like that. So some of the trends we're seeing now is a lot of companies are moving to extended visual line of sight. So that's when you can have a pilot fly with visual line of sight. You might be only able to fly to a few hundred meters. Extended visual line of sight could be used up to 1.5 kilometers. It's quite an easy process to put that on your operator certificate to fly fly the drone, but it allows you to fly that further distance. You use a spotter, so you can use a spotter using binoculars, as long as you can clear that there's no one on the ground and the air risk is low. Beyond visual line of sight is where you can't see the drone. So you're flying beyond that pilot's visual line of sight, and you've proven that you can do that safely, providing a safety case, which is a beyond visual line of sight application with a SORA risk assessment, and that highlights the other mitigations that you've put in place. That's how you can manage that air or that ground risk. So that one is very popular, especially in agriculture, but we're starting to see that a lot through construction as well. Usually at the moment, we're seeing that tied in with remote operations, especially at the moment with all these lockdowns. I'm actually sitting at the desk now. We can actually fly from our office or from wherever you set your remote operations, from your home or your office. You can actually fly that drone anywhere in Australia. So at the moment, we would have like a drone in the box, which is sort of on this picture as well. There's many different drone in the boxes out there. This one is the Percepto one. So this could be on your site permanently. It's little site placed in, it's plugged into the power and the internet supply. And then we actually can control that from our office. So we can make sure it's open. It can be set to like autonomous routes to check. For example, it might be doing all the mapping and monitoring, but you can also get a security feature on it. So if it sees someone in the wrong area, it can stop that mission and follow that person as well. So they're definitely becoming more popular. There's the Skydio, there's ones that can put your Mavic Pros on, so that there's ones that are ranging from about 10,000 Australian dollars through to 200,000 Australian dollars, depending on what you need. But that is probably the biggest trend we're going to see for the next few years. Also, by doing remote operations, how we're going to start seeing, you could have multiple boxes on your construction site, or if you've got multiple construction sites with one pilot flying, which is going to make it more cost effective. So let's just say you're flying in different, like you've got 4 or 5 construction sites in New South Wales, you could have 4 or 5 boxes on each of those sites. And then, or it could be one pilot flying all of those to collect your data. The data can be then directly head to anyone that requires that information. So that's probably, as I said, one of the biggest trends I believe we're going to see over the next few years. Another one is that has just come out this year is automated approvals. For those of you that got construction that are near a controlled airport, we're starting to see CASA trial that if instead of paying your $800 to get an approval to fly within 3 nautical miles of the airport, they're now doing it for free and it's automated. So it's very quick. So if you need to do that, they will be opening that up hopefully next year to all controlled airports, which is definitely going to make it a lot easier for you to utilize it on all your construction sites, not just the ones in the rural areas. The other one, the last one, one to many, we've sort of spoken about, was where we can fly multiple drones at the same time. So the issues that we're finding, the biggest issues that I'm finding across operations from the largest companies like the Google project, from many of the government organizations that have got 200-300 pilots and up to 500 drones and things like that. These are some of the issues that we're seeing that they're all facing, that we sort of need to try to solve for them to run successful drone programs and have all that set up so they're ready for what that 2040 predictions are going to be. So the complexity, so managing drone fleets and pilots can be complex, so it can get in the way of what your primary job is, which would be construction. So the risk as well, many of you've obviously got so many different risks already from being on a construction site, but you're entering into a new industry, which is aviation. So there's new risks inherent with that, and challengement and changes that you need to make to implement that cultural change. Efficiency, are you actually getting the most out of it? Many of you may already be using drones, you may be using it for one section, but are you getting the most out of it? Do you need to more automate that? Do you need to be flying multiple drones at once? Like, how do you make that more efficient? Adaptability, as many of you that especially if you have been playing in this space. Drones change all the time. There's new software programs, there's new new technology, new advancements that's happening all the time. Legislation, which is actually a positive thing that it changes all the time. Obviously, it's been very focused on conventionally piloted aircraft for so long, but obviously with the uncrewed coming in such force, the regulations are changing to support that. And there's been a lot of positive changes which did allow a lot of those industry trends that I just spoke about to become active and available for us to utilise. Growth, as those statistics that I mentioned earlier, it is happening. We're expecting 33,000 drones by 2040 in the construction area. So your drones are going and your crew are going to grow. So are you prepared, and do you have all of those systems and processes in place? Also your skills. So do the pilots that you're having, so let's say they're normally doing inspections or surveys, but do they have the skills to be able to do the job that you're asking them to do as well? So they're the issues that we're seeing face everyone. I'm going to give a few suggestions of how you can fix this, or this is what I would do if you want to start implementing drones into your organisation. These would be the next steps. So the first thing I always recommend, so if you've come to me and you go, how can we make sure we're prepared for what it's going to look like? Run a developmental workshop, get all your stakeholders involved that want to be involved with drone, get it run by a third party. We really develop what your concept of operations for what you need to be doing. It's that one-day workshop. It really develops of how you want to be now, 3 years time, 5 years, and 10 years of time down the track. From there, develop a company policy of how you're going to use drones. You may have contractors on site that operate excluded. You might have some that operate under REOC. What I'm saying might be foreign to a lot of you. This is why you're also working with contractors. So developing what is your standard approach. So anyone that does anything to do with your construction site, they open this, it's anything to do with drones, and it clearly says, are you operating as a REOC? This is what you do. You're operating with contractors, the contractors must have this. And it really helps keep a very efficient and safe drone operation by having that clear and outlined policy. From there, if you are operating excluded or REOC and doing a lot of the flying internal to your own company, it's good to set up the baseline compliance from day one. So set up how it's managed, how the risk assessments, how all the insurance, how the paperwork to stay compliant with CASA or other regulators are adhered to. Once they're all set up, it's a very easy process. I hear a lot of pilots, it's just easier to just put the drone up and fly. We just want to quickly just check that one thing. If it's set up correctly, it's a very quick 1-minute job. There's no difference from what they'd be doing for any other job. It would be a lot less paperwork probably than them normally just going to work at heights or anything like that. So it's really important to set the compliance up from day one. Once you've got the drone operation, I really, really support most government organisations that we manage. So we manage a few of the larger ones that have a few hundred pilots. We run a thing called a community practice day. So it's only an hour. It's every 2 months. So it's important to run those ongoing where you bring everyone together, talk about any safety findings that you found, anything that's changing in the industry. Look, LiDAR, there's so many different technologies in this space that are changing. So it allows an opportunity for an open forum. People can share what they're doing on the site, so we can start collaborating within all your departments as well. So they're my 4 top tips to starting a very successful drone operation. I'm really getting to the end of my time. I think Timothy's going to jump in soon. So has anyone got any questions?
All right, Jackie, I don't see any questions coming up on the Q&A at this point. We've got a couple of minutes up our sleeve. Are the regulations here, are the regulations here in Australia tougher than other countries?
They're more defined, which makes it easier. So the one good thing about having a defined regulatory process, once you know what you're allowed to do, there's a pathway to do it. So it allows you to do some of those complex operations like flying multiple drones at once. In other organisations, it's not quite countries and regulatory authorities, it's not so defined. So there's a lot of guessing and like, how do we actually do that? How do we make it safe? So no, yeah, there are a lot, but it's not always a bad thing that there is a lot.
All right, I understand. So as long as you're aware of what's there, it's in black
Yeah,
and white, what you
look,
can
there's
do.
different, and look, it's really hard doing a webinar as well, because I can't really gauge of who actually is flying drones, or it's never even been a thought in their mind, the people listening as well. So I've been mostly speaking about, organizations that are utilizing drones and how that they make that successful. But the government, they've developed sort of, excluded operators. They've given different pathways for the amount that you fly as well. So there's always an option. If you want to be pushing boundaries and flying 30 drones at once all across Australia from your head office in Sydney, well, yeah, you've got to go down one pathway, which is definitely more hoops to jump through. But if you just think you're going to fly it once a year, there's like excluded operators and there's things like that, which are very easy for people to do.
Fantastic. I'll just check if we've got any more questions. My favourite question to ask a panelist is, what do you wish we asked you? Have you forgotten anything? We've got a couple of minutes up our sleeve. Is there anything else you want to add in? A challenge to the audience.
Look, I mean, we know it's proven. We know drones can be utilised to, stop people. We know it stops people working at height. So it's saving money by putting less people at risk. We know that it saves time when you're doing surveys and 3D models and having someone out there where all the tools are. It definitely, the biggest issue they often face is regulatory, like, can they fly near people? Can they fly behind a building and they can't see the drone? There's all of those questions that they're not sure. And that's why I always say it's just so important to have that foundation correct, because then it's very clear, and then it allows the people within your organization to be creative, think outside the box, going, wow, like we've been doing this and we could actually use a drone. But if you've got that foundation, it gives every one of their staff that empower to dream and envision and really start to move forward to what we're going to see the industry look like in 2040.